Welcome back. At first glance, a Roosevelt dime looks like nothing more than ordinary pocket change, but hidden within this iconic American coin is a story of history, precision, and the tiny details that serious collectors never overlook. Stay with me as we uncover what truly separates a common dime from the authenticated examples that have captured the attention of collectors for decades. First coin. The 1967 Roosevelt dime often slips through change unnoticed, yet it belongs to one of the most fascinating chapters in modern American coinage. At first glance, it appears almost identical to countless other Roosevelt dimes, but its story is rooted in a dramatic shift that forever changed the composition of U.S. coins. Produced during a time of economic uncertainty and intense public demand for circulating coinage, this dime represents a turning point that continues to attract collectors decades later. While millions were struck, only a tiny fraction stand apart because of exceptional preservation, remarkable striking quality, or unusual minting mistakes. As this story unfolds, you'll discover why certain authenticated examples have earned impressive prices at auction, what separates ordinary pieces from extraordinary survivors, and which characteristics experienced collectors examine before assigning significant value. The road to the 1967 Roosevelt dime began only a few years earlier, when rising silver prices created a nationwide coin shortage. Americans had started pulling silver coins from circulation because their precious metal content was becoming more valuable than their face value. Congress responded with the Coinage Act of 1965, one of the most influential laws in the history of United States coinage. That legislation removed silver from circulating dimes and quarters, replacing the traditional 90% silver composition with a copper core bonded to outer layers of copper and nickel. The 1967 Roosevelt dime, therefore, consists of a copper-nickel-clad composition, weighing 2.27 grams, measuring 17.91 millimeters in diameter, and featuring a reeded edge. Although the design remained familiar, the new metal composition changed the coin's appearance, sound, and wear characteristics. The government also suspended mint marks during 1965 through 1967 in an effort to discourage collectors from hoarding newly released coins, making every 1967 dime appear without a mint mark regardless of whether it was struck in Philadelphia, Denver, or San Francisco. Despite the absence of mint marks, the artistic elements of the coin remained a tribute to one of America's most influential presidents. The obverse displays Franklin Delano Roosevelt, whose leadership through the Great Depression and World War II left a lasting legacy. His portrait was designed by Chief Engraver John R. Sinek, whose initials can be found near the base of Roosevelt's neck. The reverse presents a balanced arrangement featuring a torch symbolizing liberty, an olive branch representing peace, and an oak branch standing for strength and independence. Encircling these central elements are the inscriptions United States of America, One Dime, and EPLUBUS UNUM. Although collectors often focus on rare dates and mint marks, specialists also study the sharpness of Roosevelt's hair, the detail in the torch bands, and the separation of the leaves, because these features reveal how well an individual coin was struck before it entered circulation. The production of the 1967 Roosevelt dime reached an enormous scale, with well over 1 billion examples manufactured to help replenish the nation's circulating coin supply. The U.S. Mint placed speed and quantity ahead of perfection, and that decision explains why fully struck, sharply detailed examples are considerably scarcer than the overall mintage might suggest. Many coins left the presses with soft details, minor contact marks, or uneven luster before they even entered circulation. Once they passed through banks, cash registers, vending machines, and countless pockets, additional wear reduced the number of pristine survivors even further. As a result, the vast majority of 1967 dimes encountered today remain common and carry only modest premiums over face value if circulated. Yet coins preserved immediately after issue, especially those retaining brilliant original mint luster and virtually flawless surfaces, have become increasingly desirable among registry set collectors seeking the finest certified examples available. Condition plays an overwhelming role in determining value, and professional grading services evaluate every visible characteristic with extraordinary precision. A circulated coin showing moderate wear is generally collected as an affordable historical piece rather than a major rarity. As preservation improves into mint state grades, however, the market changes dramatically. Certified examples graded MS-67 with attractive eye appeal can attract serious bidding, and particularly impressive coins have sold for around $1,250 when demand aligned with exceptional quality. Coins reaching even higher certified grades become dramatically more difficult to locate because every tiny mark, dull patch, or weak strike can prevent advancement. The finest known pieces, supported by respected grading companies and outstanding originality, have realized prices exceeding $3,600 at public auction. Those remarkable results apply only to authenticated, elite-quality specimens and should never be interpreted as typical values for every 1967 Roosevelt dime found in circulation. Collectors also pay close attention to mint errors and unusual production anomalies because they create legitimate scarcity beyond ordinary condition rarity. Off-center strikes, broad strikes, clipped planchets, dramatic die cracks, and properly authenticated double dies all generate significant interest when genuine. Some error coins display missing clad layers that expose more of the copper core, while others exhibit striking misalignments that occurred during the minting process. Each variety requires careful examination because damage after leaving the mint can easily imitate genuine errors. Counterfeiters and altered coins occasionally appear in the marketplace, particularly when sellers attempt to create fake mint errors or artificially enhance grades. Experienced numismatists rely on precise weight measurements, edge examination, magnification, and certification from trusted third-party grading services to distinguish authentic mint-produced varieties from post-mint alterations that carry little or no collector value. Authentication becomes even more important because the 1967 Roosevelt dime lacks a mint mark, eliminating one of the easiest identifying features found on many other U.S. coins. Specialists instead evaluate die characteristics, strike quality, surface texture, and microscopic details that reveal whether a coin remains original. Cleaning is one of the greatest threats to collector value. A coin polished to appear brighter may actually lose a substantial portion of its desirability because professional graders recognize unnatural surfaces immediately. Proper preservation involves handling the coin only by its edges, avoiding fingerprints, and storing it in inert holders, archival quality flips, or certified encapsulation that protects it from moisture, environmental contaminants, and abrasion. Stable temperatures and low humidity further reduce the risk of spotting or corrosion, allowing original luster and eye appeal to survive for future generations of collectors. The lasting appeal of the 1967 Roosevelt dime lies not in precious metal content, but in its connection to a pivotal moment when American coinage adapted to changing economic realities. It marks the transition from the silver era into the modern clad age while preserving the classic Roosevelt design that millions recognize today. Most surviving examples remain inexpensive reminders of that historic transformation, yet a select group distinguished by exceptional preservation, authenticated mint errors, or truly outstanding strike quality continues to command remarkable attention in today's marketplace. Auction records consistently demonstrate that rarity is created by a combination of originality, condition, certification, and collector demand rather than by the date alone. Every 1967 Roosevelt dime deserves a careful examination, because although the overwhelming majority are ordinary circulating coins, the rare certified exceptions remind collectors that history, craftsmanship, and scarcity can converge in unexpected ways to produce pieces that stand among the most desirable modern dimes in American numismatics. Next coin. Few modern American coins appear as ordinary as the 1966 Roosevelt dime with no mint mark. Yet that quiet appearance has helped transform it into one of the most carefully studied circulation issues of the mid-1960s. Millions of people have handled one without giving it a second thought, but dedicated collectors know that exceptional survivors tell a far more fascinating story than worn pocket change ever could. The absence of a mint mark is not a mistake or a rare variety in itself. Instead, it reflects an unusual period in United States mint history when mint marks were intentionally removed from all circulating coinage. That single decision has created decades of curiosity among collectors who often wonder whether hidden rarities still exist within ordinary-looking examples. As the story unfolds, it becomes clear that not every 1966 dime is equally desirable, because factors such as preservation, strike quality, original surfaces, certified grade, and genuine mint-made errors dramatically influence collector demand. By the end, the reasons behind its strongest auction performances and the authenticated examples that have earned remarkable premiums become much easier to understand. To appreciate the importance of the 1966 Roosevelt Dime, it is necessary to step back into one of the most challenging periods in modern American coinage. The United States was experiencing a nationwide coin shortage that had intensified during the early 1960s as silver prices climbed and the public began hoarding older silver coins. Congress had already responded by passing the Coinage Act of 1965, which removed silver from the dime and quarter while reducing the silver content of the half-dollar. The 1966 Roosevelt Dime, therefore, continued the new copper-nickel-clad composition introduced the previous year, consisting of outer layers of 75% copper and 25% nickel bonded to a pure copper core. It weighs approximately 2.27 grams, measures 17.91 millimeters in diameter, features a reeded edge with 118 reeds, and was produced for everyday commerce rather than collectors. During this emergency period, mint marks were temporarily omitted to discourage people from collecting freshly struck coins by mint location, and although the coins were actually produced at the Philadelphia Mint, the Denver Mint, and the San Francisco Mint, every circulating 1966 dime was intentionally left without a mint mark. Because of that policy, a missing mint mark on a 1966 dime is entirely normal and should never be mistaken for an error. The artistic design carried forward a tribute that had first appeared in 1946, only months after the death of President Franklin Delano Roosevelt. Sculptor and chief engraver John R. Sinek created the obverse portrait, depicting Roosevelt facing left with the inscriptions "Liberty, in God we trust," and the date. Roosevelt's association with the March of Dimes campaign against polio made him a fitting figure for the nation's 10-cent coin, and the design quickly became one of the most recognizable portraits in American numismatics. On the reverse, a torch stands proudly at the center, symbolizing liberty, while an olive branch represents peace and an oak branch signifies strength and independence. United States of America, 1 dime, and EPLUBUS UNUM surround the central devices in a balanced arrangement that has remained largely unchanged for generations. Although familiar to nearly every American, these details take on new significance when examined under magnification, where the sharpness of Roosevelt's hair, the flame of the torch, and the intricate veins of the leaves become important indicators of strike quality and preservation. The 1966 issue was manufactured in enormous numbers, with a total mintage exceeding 1 billion pieces, ensuring widespread circulation while simultaneously creating the challenge of locating truly exceptional survivors decades later. Because so many examples entered commerce immediately, the overwhelming majority experienced years of heavy circulation that gradually softened Roosevelt's hair, flattened the torch details, and dulled the original mint luster. Collectors today often encounter examples grading good, very good, fine, or extremely fine, but these typically command only modest premiums over face value unless accompanied by a significant mint error or another unusual characteristic. The situation changes dramatically as preservation improves. Coins retaining original cartwheel luster, minimal contact marks, and crisp strike definition become increasingly scarce in mint state grades because relatively few were carefully saved at the time of issue. Professional grading services evaluate every aspect of a coin, including wear, surface preservation, eye appeal, originality, and overall quality, before assigning grades such as MS63, MS64, MS65, MS66, or even higher. While attractive certified mint state pieces can sometimes sell for around $1,150 to $1,600, depending on current market demand, these values are never guaranteed and always depend upon independent authentication, certified grade, originality, and collector competition at the time of sale. As specialists continue studying the series, they often focus on characteristics that casual observers never notice. Strike quality varies because dies gradually wore down during high-speed production, meaning not every 1966 dime displays equally sharp details. Strongly struck examples exhibit crisp lettering, well-defined torch bands, and impressive detail in Roosevelt's hair, all enhanced by vibrant original mint frost. Collectors also pay close attention to surface quality because tiny contact marks accumulated rapidly when newly struck coins collided inside large mint bags. A coin may technically remain uncirculated while still displaying numerous abrasions that reduce its desirability. Eye appeal, therefore, plays a substantial role alongside numerical grade. Certified examples with blazing luster and unusually clean surfaces have attracted prices in the neighborhood of $2,100 to $2,900 in competitive markets, but those figures reflect exceptional coins rather than typical survivors. Market conditions, population reports, registry set competition, and overall demand can all influence realized prices from one auction to another. Another area that generates considerable excitement involves genuine mint eras and die varieties, although collectors must separate documented discoveries from exaggerated internet claims. There are authenticated 1966 Roosevelt Dimes known with errors such as off-center strikes, broad strikes, clipped planchets, and certain double die varieties, but each requires careful examination and professional authentication because many forms of post-mint damage can imitate valuable mint mistakes. A genuine double die should display hub-created doubling rather than machine doubling, while an authentic off-center strike will preserve the date if it is to command strong collector interest. Dramatic errors in high grades may bring substantially more than ordinary examples because they combine rarity with historical production anomalies. Depending on the specific era, certification, condition, and buyer demand, some authenticated pieces have realized prices ranging from roughly $1,800 to more than $3,500. Extraordinary results should never be interpreted as representing every 1966 dime, since only well-documented, professionally authenticated era coins attract that level of attention. Authentication has become increasingly important as the popularity of certified coins has grown worldwide. Although the 1966 Roosevelt Dime is not among the most heavily counterfeited United States coins, deceptive alterations and counterfeit pieces do exist, especially when sellers attempt to imitate rare era varieties or high-grade certified examples. Collectors should verify the correct weight, diameter, clad edge appearance, and magnetic behavior, remembering that genuine copper-nickel clad dimes are not magnetic under normal conditions. Purchasing coins already authenticated by respected third-party grading services significantly reduces risk, particularly when pursuing higher-value specimens. Once acquired, preservation becomes equally important. Handling should always be limited to the edges to avoid fingerprints, while long-term storage in inert holders or certified slabs protects surfaces from environmental contamination, moisture, and abrasion. Improper cleaning remains one of the fastest ways to destroy collector value because abrasive polishing permanently removes original mint surfaces that experienced numismatists prize above artificial brightness. The continuing fascination surrounding the 1966 Roosevelt Dime demonstrates that rarity is often defined not by mintage alone, but by survival in extraordinary condition. More than 1 billion examples were produced, yet only a tiny fraction have endured for decades with pristine surfaces, strong strikes, and exceptional eye appeal worthy of elite certified grades. Registry collectors continue competing for the finest known examples because population reports reveal just how few exist at the highest levels of preservation. Verified auction records confirm that premium prices belong only to authenticated coins possessing exceptional quality, important documented errors, or remarkable condition, rather than to ordinary circulated pieces carrying the same date. This distinction explains why one 1966 dime may remain little more than everyday change, while another becomes the centerpiece of an advanced collection. Its story is ultimately one of history, craftsmanship, and preservation, reminding collectors that even a coin created during a national coin shortage can evolve into an enduring numismatic treasure when originality, certification, rarity, and outstanding condition come together in a single remarkable survivor. Next up. At first glance, the 1981 Roosevelt dime seems almost impossible to separate from the countless other dimes that have passed through American pockets, cash registers, and vending machines for decades. Its familiar portrait, modest size, and everyday appearance rarely inspire a second look, yet experienced numismatists approach this coin very differently. Rather than seeing an ordinary 10-cent piece, they see a series of tiny clues waiting to be examined. The date, the presence or absence of a mint mark, the sharpness of the strike, the brightness of the original luster, and even the smallest imperfections can completely change how the coin is viewed by specialists. What appears common to one person may represent an unusually well-preserved survivor to another. That contrast is precisely why the 1981 Roosevelt dime has earned lasting attention among collectors. As we examine it together, like investigators studying evidence, each detail begins revealing another part of its story, and only later does it become clear why certain authenticated examples attract remarkable collector interest while most remain ordinary circulating coins. Our investigation begins in the United States of 1981, a year marked by economic uncertainty, stubborn inflation that had carried over from the late 1970s, and interest rates that reached historically high levels as policymakers fought rising prices. Ronald Reagan had recently entered the White House, and Americans were adjusting to changing economic policies while everyday commerce continued to depend heavily on circulating coinage. The Roosevelt dime remained one of the nation's workhorses, used constantly in retail transactions, public transportation, vending machines, laundromats, and countless other daily purchases. Unlike commemorative issues created for collectors, these coins were manufactured primarily to meet commercial demand. Production occurred at the Philadelphia Mint, identified by the P mint mark on 1981 dimes, and at the Denver Mint, carrying the familiar D. By this time, Philadelphia had begun placing mint marks on dimes again, making the presence of the correct mint mark an important authentication detail. During 1981, the Philadelphia Mint struck more than 450 million dimes, while the Denver Mint produced well over 700 million pieces, ensuring that the coin entered circulation in enormous numbers, even though truly exceptional survivors would prove far less common over the decades. Holding the coin under proper lighting reveals how much thought went into its design despite its small size. The obverse features Franklin Delano Roosevelt, whose leadership during the Great Depression and World War II left an enduring mark on American history. His association with the March of Dimes campaign against polio made him the natural choice for the nation's 10-cent coin beginning in 1946. Chief engraver John R. Sinek created the portrait, placing Liberty along the left side, In God We Trust beneath Roosevelt's chin, and the date below. On 1981 issues, the mint mark appears beside the date, immediately becoming one of the first locations experienced collectors inspect. Turning the coin over reveals Sinek's reverse featuring a central torch representing liberty, flanked by an olive branch symbolizing peace, and an oak branch representing strength and independence. United States of America, EPLUBUSUNUM, and one dime complete the design. Although millions have seen these elements, specialists study their sharpness under magnification because the finest details often distinguish an average coin from an exceptional one. The physical specifications also become important once close examination begins. Every genuine 1981 Roosevelt dime should measure approximately 17.91 millimeters in diameter, weigh about 2.27 grams, and display a reeded edge with 118 reeds. Its clad construction consists of outer layers containing 75% copper and 25% nickel bonded to a pure copper core, a composition introduced after silver was removed from circulating dimes beginning in 1965. Looking carefully at the edge should reveal the characteristic copper-colored center sandwiched between the nickel alloy surfaces. Collectors routinely confirm these specifications during authentication because incorrect weight, unusual dimensions, or an improper edge can indicate damage, alteration, or even counterfeiting. Although counterfeit 1981 dimes are relatively uncommon compared with famous key-date coins, deceptive alterations do exist, particularly involving fabricated mint errors or altered certified holders. Genuine authentication, therefore, depends not on a single characteristic, but on the combination of correct measurements, accurate design details, appropriate metallic appearance, and consistency with known mint production standards. As circulation gradually transformed these coins, another investigation began, one focused on preservation rather than production. Most 1981 dimes performed exactly as intended, spending years passing from hand to hand until friction softened Roosevelt's hair, flattened portions of the torch, and gradually removed the brilliant cartwheel luster seen when the coins first left the mint. Experienced collectors evaluate these changes carefully because even slight differences in wear dramatically influence desirability. Professional grading services assess strike quality, remaining luster, contact marks, eye appeal, and originality before assigning grades ranging from circulated levels through mint state designations such as MS63, MS65, MS66, and beyond. Strong strikes displaying crisp lettering, fully defined torch bands, clean fields, and vibrant mint frost consistently command greater attention than heavily marked examples. While many circulated pieces retain little premium beyond face value, exceptional certified mint state examples have occasionally traded around the $1,300 to $1,900 range, depending on certification, originality, eye appeal, population data, and prevailing collector demand. These values reflect unusually well-preserved coins rather than ordinary examples found in circulation. The investigation becomes even more intriguing when attention shifts toward legitimate mint errors and recognized varieties. Collectors frequently hear exaggerated claims online, making careful verification essential. The 1981 Roosevelt dime is known with certain authenticated mint errors, including off-center strikes, broad strikes, clipped planchets, and occasional double die varieties, although such pieces are genuinely scarce compared with normal production. Each type of error must be distinguished from post-mint damage, which is far more common. A true double die originates during die creation and displays characteristic hub doubling, whereas machine doubling generally carries little additional collector value. Similarly, an authentic clipped planchet exhibits predictable metal flow characteristics rather than random damage from later handling. When certified by respected third-party grading services, dramatic mint errors in attractive condition can command significantly stronger prices than ordinary pieces. Depending upon the exact error, rarity, certification, grade, originality, and market demand, some authenticated examples have realized approximately $2,200 to $3,700 in competitive sales. Those results belong only to verified error coins and should never be interpreted as the value of every 1981 Roosevelt dime. Another lesson experienced collectors quickly learn is that originality often matters as much as rarity. Under proper illumination, specialists examine whether the coin still displays uninterrupted mint luster flowing across both sides, because cleaned or polished surfaces permanently lose the microscopic texture created during striking. Hairline scratches from abrasive cleaning, unnatural brightness, chemical residue, or artificial toning immediately reduce collector confidence even when little actual wear is present. Unlike copper coins, Roosevelt dimes are not categorized using official red-brown, or brown color classifications, yet surface appearance remains critically important. Attractive natural toning can enhance eye appeal, while dull gray surfaces caused by improper storage may diminish it. Preservation therefore begins the moment a coin enters a collection. Handling only by the edges, storing coins in inert holders or certified slabs, controlling humidity, and avoiding household cleaning products all help maintain original surfaces. These seemingly simple precautions often determine whether a coin remains desirable decades later or loses much of its potential appeal to future collectors. By the time every detail has been examined, the 1981 Roosevelt Dime reveals why seasoned numismatists refuse to judge a coin solely by its mintage or everyday appearance. Hundreds of millions were produced, yet the number surviving with exceptional strikes, pristine surfaces, outstanding luster, and top certified grades represents only a tiny fraction of the original production. Registry collectors continue searching for the finest known examples because population reports show just how difficult the highest quality survivors have become. Verified auction records consistently demonstrate that premium prices are achieved only by authenticated coins possessing extraordinary preservation or important documented mint errors, never simply because they bear the date 1981. That distinction lies at the heart of serious coin collecting. Every examination begins with the same careful questions about the date, mint mark, strike quality, lettering, surfaces, luster, eye appeal, and possible mint-made anomalies. Only after every one of those factors has been investigated can a collector understand whether the coin represents ordinary history carried in a pocket or an unusually preserved survivor worthy of lasting numismatic admiration. Last coin. Millions of Americans have carried a 1991 Roosevelt dime from Philadelphia without ever pausing to examine it, yet seasoned collectors know that this seemingly ordinary coin can tell a surprisingly complex story when viewed through the eyes of a numismatist. At first glance, it looks no different from countless other dimes struck for circulation, but subtle details hidden in its surfaces, strike quality, preservation, and production history separate commonplace examples from those that command genuine respect within the collecting community. The small P mint mark beside the date confirms that it was produced at the Philadelphia Mint, a detail that immediately becomes the starting point for any serious examination. What follows is an investigation into how a coin struck by the hundreds of millions can still produce examples that become highly desirable decades later. As this documentary unfolds, the evidence gradually reveals why collectors compete so intensely for certain authenticated specimens, and how condition, originality, rarity, and documented market performance ultimately determine whether one 1991 Roosevelt dime is simply pocket change, while another earns a place in an advanced collection. The story begins in America during 1991, a year shaped by both political change and economic uncertainty. The nation watched Operation Desert Storm unfold while adjusting to a recession that influenced consumer spending and financial confidence. Despite those larger events, the United States Mint continued its everyday responsibility of producing billions of circulating coins needed to keep commerce moving efficiently across the country. Dimes remained essential for cash transactions, vending machines, transit systems, parking meters, and countless purchases made every day. The Philadelphia Mint, one of the oldest federal institutions in the United States, struck the 1991 Roosevelt dime with its identifying P mint mark, while the Denver Mint produced its own version carrying a D. The Philadelphia issue recorded a mintage exceeding 500 million pieces, making it far from rare in absolute numbers. Yet experienced collectors understand that mintage alone rarely determines long-term desirability. The real question is not how many were struck, but how many survived in extraordinary condition after years of circulation, handling, storage, and environmental exposure? Examining the coin closely reveals a design that has represented American ideals for generations. Chief engraver John R. Sinek created the Roosevelt Dime shortly after President Franklin Delano Roosevelt's death in 1945, and the design entered circulation in 1946. Roosevelt's leadership during the Great Depression and the Second World War made him one of the most influential figures in 20th-century American history, while his personal struggle with polio connected him permanently to the March of Dimes campaign. His left-facing portrait dominates the obverse, accompanied by Liberty, In God We Trust, the date, and the Philadelphia P mint mark. Turning the coin over reveals the familiar torch standing between an olive branch and an oak branch, symbolizing liberty, peace, and national strength. United States of America, EPLUBUSUNUM, and one dime surround the central design in a composition that balances simplicity with enduring symbolism. Although nearly every American recognizes these images, advanced collectors study them under magnification, because even the smallest differences in sharpness can reveal much about the striking process and the quality of the dies that produced the coin. The physical characteristics of the 1991 Roosevelt Dime provide another layer of evidence for both authentication and grading. Every genuine circulation strike should weigh approximately 2.27 grams, measure 17.91 millimeters in diameter, and display a reeded edge. Its clad construction consists of outer layers made from 75% copper and 25% nickel, bonded to a pure copper core, creating the distinctive copper-colored stripe visible along the edge. These specifications have remained remarkably consistent since the Coinage Act of 1965 removed silver from circulating dimes. During production, blank planchets passed through high-speed presses where immense pressure transferred the designs from hardened dies onto each coin. Although this process was highly efficient, tiny differences inevitably developed as dies aged, production speeds varied, and striking pressure fluctuated. Those variations explain why some 1991 Philadelphia dimes display noticeably sharper lettering, more complete torch details, and stronger hair definition on Roosevelt than others. Such distinctions may seem insignificant to casual observers, but they become critically important once professional grading and collector demand enter the picture. As the years passed, circulation became the greatest test of survival. Most 1991 dimes fulfilled their intended purpose, accumulating contact marks, friction, and wear that gradually erased the brilliant cartwheel luster visible when they first left the mint. Collectors searching today quickly discover that attractive mint state examples are much scarcer than the original mintage suggests, because relatively few coins escaped heavy handling. Professional grading services evaluate every aspect of preservation, including strike quality, luster, abrasions, eye appeal, and originality, before assigning grades ranging from circulated conditions to mint state designations such as MS64, MS65, MS66, MS67, and beyond. Registry collectors often pursue the highest certified examples because population reports show that elite grades become increasingly difficult to obtain. Depending on certification, eye appeal, originality, and current market demand, exceptional mint state pieces have realized prices in the neighborhood of approximately $1,450 to $2,150. Those figures apply only to authenticated high-grade examples and should never be interpreted as representing the value of ordinary circulated coins sharing the same date and mint mark. The investigation becomes even more fascinating when legitimate mint-made errors and recognized varieties enter the discussion. The internet is filled with exaggerated claims about supposedly rare 1991 dimes, making careful research and professional authentication more important than ever. Authentic errors known for the Roosevelt Dime series include off-center strikes, broad strikes, clipped planchets, and certain double die varieties, although such discoveries remain genuinely uncommon. A true double die originates during die production and differs significantly from machine doubling, which generally carries little premium. Likewise, an authentic off-center strike displays unmistakable characteristics created during the striking process rather than damage inflicted after the coin entered circulation. When dramatic mint errors are authenticated by respected third-party grading services and preserved in outstanding condition, collector demand can increase substantially. Depending upon the exact error. Rarity, certification, and appeal documented collector transactions have reached roughly $2,600 to $3,800 for particularly desirable examples. Extraordinary results belong exclusively to authenticated error coins or exceptionally preserved specimens, not to every 1991 Philadelphia dime encountered in everyday change. Authentication and preservation ultimately determine whether future collectors will admire or overlook a coin. Although counterfeit 1991 Roosevelt Dimes are not widespread compared with famous key dates, deceptive alterations designed to imitate valuable errors or certified examples do exist. Specialists therefore begin by confirming the correct weight, diameter, metallic composition, edge appearance, and design details before examining surfaces under magnification for evidence of cleaning, tooling, or alteration. Original mint luster remains one of the strongest indicators that a coin has avoided improper treatment. Unlike copper coins, Roosevelt dimes are not classified as red, red-brown, or brown, yet natural surface appearance still carries tremendous importance. Artificial polishing, chemical cleaning, or abrasive wiping permanently damages microscopic mint texture and often reduces collector confidence regardless of numerical grade. Safe preservation involves handling coins only by their edges, storing them in inert holders or certified slabs, protecting them from humidity and contaminants, and avoiding any attempt to improve their appearance through cleaning. In the numismatic marketplace, originality is often rewarded more generously than artificial brilliance. When every clue has been examined, the 1991 Philadelphia Roosevelt dime stands as a reminder that extraordinary collectibles are not always defined by low mintages or dramatic appearances. Instead, they often emerge from ordinary circulation issues that survived against the odds, with exceptional preservation, outstanding strikes, remarkable originality, or significant authenticated mint errors. Verified auction activity consistently demonstrates that premium prices belong only to certified examples meeting those demanding standards, while the vast majority remain affordable historical artifacts linking modern Americans to a specific moment in the nation's economic and cultural history. That distinction explains why experienced collectors study every detail before reaching conclusions, allowing evidence rather than excitement to guide their decisions. The enduring appeal of this coin lies not in promises of hidden wealth, but in the satisfaction of discovering how history, craftsmanship, condition, and rarity intersect within a piece of everyday American commerce. Sometimes the smallest coin reveals the deepest story, and that is where every memorable numismatic journey truly begins.